And I'm back. So I know you missed me because, hello, I'm like the best teacher ever, kind of. But here's the deal. So we talked about the English Bill of Rights. We've also talked about the Magna Carta. Now, the Fourth Amendment protects individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures. That means that the police or the military or whoever cannot come into your home and search it without a warrant. And a warrant basically says, hey, this is a document that states that I have permission from the judiciary court in order to come and search your property. Now, if they have that, yeah, you gotta let them in. I mean, it's law. Now, what ends up happening, if the person to be searched consents, if the criminal activity is in plain view, or if there is a pursuit or other emergency, a warrant may not be required. Otherwise, if the police break the rules, they cannot later use the evidence that they found in court. Now, what that means is this. If you, for example, open the door and police can see inside the house that there is some kind of evidence in plain sight, like they can see it right there, then they can come in and get you. They can take you, put you under arrest if they need to, and take you in. However, if they just kind of force their way in, even if they find something that could totally incriminate you, they can't use it. Okay? The Fifth Amendment. A citizen cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This means that the certain legal procedures must be carried out according to established rules before a person can be punished. Eminent domain refers to the power of the government taking over property in its territory. Sometimes the government needs to take over property, such as to build a public highway or construct a school. The person's property cannot be taken away for public use without payment, which is reasonable compensation. So, for example, when I lived in Axtell, there was this moment where we thought we might actually have to sell our house to the state because we thought that they were going to have to build a highway, an interstate highway, close to where we live. Now, luckily for us, that wasn't the case. They actually moved it over a little bit, so it actually missed our house, and it sadly took out part of our neighbor's pasture, farmland. But I mean, it was very close. Now the thing is, they can't just take it from us. They have to pay for it with a reasonable compensation. Now, a person cannot be tried for a serious federal crime that could lead to imprisonment or execution without the indictment of a grand jury. An indictment is a formal accusation by the court before a person is arrested. Grand jury is a group of people. So, if you are brought in for trial, what ends up happening is you're going to have a grand jury of so many people put into the room, and they're going to listen to the story and see whether or not you're guilty. If you are found guilty, they are going to write an indictment, which is a formal accusation that you are to be arrested. No person can be subject to double jeopardy, which means to be tried for the same crime twice. Now, what that means is, for example, if I ran into a Target and I held the cash register under, I don't know, some kind of weapon and said, give me all your money, and I was arrested. Now, if during that first trial, that first crime trial that they had me in, if they could not produce enough evidence that it was indeed me that did that, and let's say that I was found not guilty, then that's the end of it. I can't later then, like, for example, if the group of people that are trying to put me into jail, if they find, for example, a video of me running down the road with a stack wad of cash that has Target's name, like, labeled on it or something, I don't know. Like, if they saw something like that, they can't get me back into jail through a second crime for that same trial. So even if they found evidence that publicly, like certain, without a doubt, they can't try it for me. Even if they found something that does indeed show me at that crime, they can't double jeopardy me. They can't put me back into a courtroom for the same crime. And self-incrimination. A person accused cannot be forced to say things that will be used against him or herself. Basically what that means is I plead the fifth. A lot of people will say that because what ends up happening is if they are to answer the question that has been given to them, there's a possibility that it will incriminate themselves. And if a person does not want to incriminate themselves, then they can plead the fifth. The Sixth Amendment guarantees a fair and impartial trial, a speedy trial. The Eighth Amendment, a federal court cannot require an unusually high bail. A bail is an amount of money to be paid to get out of jail under a certain amount of time when you are waiting for a trial. So, for example, if you are given bail, the opportunity for bail, then if you are to be able to pay that bail, you can actually go about your daily life until you are summoned for court. But the problem is you have to pay for that. It's not just given to you. You can't just like walk out of the jail and get away scot-free. I mean, you have to pay a considerable amount of money to do so. Now, that being said, some other amendments that I want you to be aware of. The Seventh Amendment is the right to a jury by civil disputes, where one person sues another for injury or for breaking a contract. So, for example, if you had a contract with me that I would go and build a sunroof on your freshly made house, and then I got halfway through it and then just quit, just up and quit, you could actually get me for that. And that's basically what the Seventh Amendment says. The Ninth Amendment says that just because the Constitution lists some specific individual rights does not mean that the citizens do not hold other rights. Sorry about that. My dogs are underneath me and they're hitting me and stuff. Now, the 10th Amendment. Powers are not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states, and are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Okay. Now, if you read at the bottom of page 151 where it starts with the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, please make sure you go through and highlight all of that. It is particularly